very best animators plan all of their movements before they get started. Animating is hard, and figuring out where to draw all of our animation frames can be a large challenge if we're not using guide layers or some sort of blueprint that will help us figure out where our movements are going to go. These guide layers are an excellent addition to our workflow and something that I do all the time. We don't want to rely exclusively upon the details of the onion skinning system to give us the system that we're looking for. We want to be able to create complex animations, and sometimes the onion skinning system just doesn't give us what we're after, right? It doesn't give us enough detail, and it doesn't allow us to see from kind of like a macro view what the entire movement path is going to be. The whole purpose behind these guide layers is to be able to see the entire movement in one frame. That way, we can make changes to the entirety of the animation very quickly. This is like laying the foundation for our entire animation early on. We want to be able to make changes quickly at the early stage without having to redraw anything. Drawing's tough. Drawing takes a long time. Ideally, we only want to draw our character one time, so pre-planning and plotting everything out with guide layers on their own animation layer is a fantastic way of working. Let's jump in and take a look at it. So I'm going to have my little ball bounce from boom, boom, something like this. And I need to figure out the arc that this object is going to take. Where's this object going to start? Where is it going to end? How high is the ball going to go? How fast is the ball going to jump, and is it going to kind of hover in midair? These are all questions that I need to kind of start wrapping my head around and striving to find answers for before I draw anything. We want to be as organized in our thinking before we start drawing our characters. If we do so, the entire animation of our character actually goes a whole lot faster because we've already done the heavy lifting and the planning beforehand. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and start looking at this. So I think what I need to do here is, first and foremost, is I'm going to go into my animation layers section here, and I'm going to create a new animation layer. I already have one for background, which is fantastic, so I'm going to hit the plus sign here, and let's call this one guide. There we go. Now the whole purpose of this animation layer is just for me to experiment and plot out the arc of movement before I animate anything here. I want to use the simple shape drawing tools to help in this process. Let's do it real fast. Now I know that I want to have my ball start over here on the left, where it's just going to do a single jump up and then come down. That's the big concept. Let's figure out where that arc is going to be in the draw mode. Now the cool thing about working inside of Blender is that they have a lot of great 2D simple animation tools. For arcs, I gotta tell you, one of my favorites is the arc tool itself. It's this one. Let's go ahead and start. Now I've got a whole bunch of materials already set here. Let's do this. Before we draw, let's create a new material. I'm just gonna call this guide. Yeah, a guide material, and this is gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be a stroke, but it's not gonna be a solid line. I want it to be a whole bunch of dots, and I want it to be any color. Let's just make it, I'll make it red so it's really easy for you guys to see on the computer screen. There we go. I'm gonna make sure that the guide material is selected before I start creating my arc. Now when you're using this arc tool, it's gonna ask you to left click and drag out a line, and you can start to see the dots of the material on the line itself. Like the other objects inside of our scene, or other simple shapes, excuse me, we have this wonderful yellow dot at the beginning and at the end, and there should be another one here. There it is. It was off screen. There's another blue one that represents the midpoint of that arc. Now, it doesn't really matter where we click and drag. You don't have to click on the actual blue dot. As you saw before, mine was off screen, and I was still able to go in and change the arc. So it just doesn't really matter where we click. But the yellow ones, we have to click on the yellow ones. But that middle point, we can click just about anywhere else. And now we can start plotting and planning it out, which is pretty cool. So let's figure this out here. I know I'm going to have my sphere, and I want my sphere to my ball character to kind of go, he's going to jump up and then come down. And we learned earlier that almost all of our movements are going to incorporate arcs in a big way. Even as something like a ball just jumping up and down, it's not going to land in the exact same spot that it takes off from. It's a great application of our principle of arcs. Everything moves along an arced curve. It gives us that sense of depth and weight and gravity. That interconnection, the interconnectivity that we were talking about before. Now, I'm just experimenting here. I'm trying to figure out how high I want my arc to go. Yeah, something like that. I'm pretty pleased with that. That's a good place to start. Hit the return key to accept the animation, and generally speaking, I'm pretty pleased with this. This is starting to look pretty cool. When using the arc tool, if you ever want to go back and change your arc, which I encourage, that's the idea behind these guide layers. Let's jump over into the edit mode and explore that process, because when you're working with arcs, it's a little bit different. Okay, I have my stroke selected. If I go into dot mode, I got a whole bunch of dots on this stroke, which is kind of turning into a little bit of a headache. In addition, I'm also selecting the background, which I don't like at all. Let's change that real fast. I'm gonna go back into my animation layers, and I'm gonna lock my background. Now, yeah, I love it. Now I can't select it at all. Now I can just go in and work on just my guide layer and get real specific. Okay, so I like this arc. I think I'm pretty generally pleased with it, but I want to make some pretty big sweeping changes. And these changes should also be a little bit more global. I don't want to go in and select dots and do this, because now, it's no longer an arc, unfortunately. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to use a little bit of the curve editing that we looked at before. I've selected my stroke in my stroke selection engine. Now let's turn on curve editing. And this is where it gets to be a little bit of a difficult thing, because it's reprojecting that curve and all of the dots along the curve back into the image itself. Don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to change that here in a minute. What I'm looking and focusing on exclusively are just the control handles for the Bezier curve. Yeah, oh, and again, I got a couple extras in here that I don't want. So it projected one there, and one there, and one there. I don't want those, so I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to hit dissolve. Select the dots, dissolve, and then we'll dissolve that one as well. Now, we have some work in here that we need to do to reconstitute our arc. I'm going to grab the end dot of that control handle, hit the grab tool. Yeah, there we go. And what I'm doing here, and my big picture goal, is just to kind of flatten out the top a little bit. It was a little too spiky for me, and I think I'm starting to enjoy, I'm starting to enjoy this a little bit more, something like that. Oops. Yeah, I'm liking that. That's pretty cool. Let's get out of our curve editing mode and examine our material, and specifically our stroke. Now remember, inside of Blender, when you create a stroke or a shape, you're actually creating a zillion little dots along that path, and the computer's going to connect those dots with a straight line. So the more dots that you have on your stroke, the finer the quality is going to be. But in this case, I want to have fewer dots, and this is kind of a cool little bonus thing here. I'm going to go into my stroke selection engine, and under the stroke pull-down menu, we have simplified. And let's do this. We can simplify it. Okay, we're starting to see fewer dots. In the lower right-hand corner, and I apologize because I'm standing in front of it, it's a little popover menu. And if we increase the steps, you can see that we're getting fewer dots along that curve. I'm at steps of 4. There we go. And things are pretty good. So we simplified the curve, which is great for us with the guide layers. That's really kind of all I was looking for. And now I'm a happy camper. Now I can see exactly where I need to place my sphere to get the animation that I'm after. So I'm pretty happy with this guide layer. I'm organized. I'm starting to understand the totality of the movement before I draw even a single animation frame.